and welcome to the Fertility Conversations podcast. The goal of this podcast is to create more awareness about infertility and to provide support to people trying to conceive. Thank you for listening today, and we hope you will be encouraged. And now, here is your host, Ola.
Welcome to another episode of Fertility Conversations. Today, we're joined by a lovely guest, Beatrice Frisland. She works with Cryos International, which is a leading egg and sperm donor agency. Beatrice joins us from Denmark and will be telling us all about Cryos International and the services to provide to help singles and couples trying to conceive. So welcome, Beatrice, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ola. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yay, thanks for being here. And to start off, we usually just tell us a little bit about yourself, as much or as little as you want to say.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Beatrice. I have been with Cryos International for 6.5 years, and I work in the customer care department, where I speak to women from all over the world on a daily basis, trying to help them on their fertility journey. As for me privately, I'm a mom of 2 boys, and I love what I do. And my sons, they think it's a cool job that I get to help women achieve their dream of becoming parents.
Yes, that's so lovely. And of course, you mentioned that you've been working with the Cryos for the last 6.5 years. So can you tell us a little bit about Cryos International and what your offers and offerings are?
Well, from Denmark, we offer a sperm, and then we have also our offices in Orlando, Florida, and in Cyprus, where they both of those locations have both egg and sperm. But yeah, and from Denmark, well, we can help out women sort out where they want to have their fertility treatment almost anywhere in the world, basically.
Really? So you could literally get your sperm or eggs to any country in the world?
More or less. I mean, we always have to take into consideration legislations of each country. If there's a country we cannot ship to, we can always try to help find another country where the client can receive her treatment. So nothing is impossible. We always try to find the best solution for our clients so that they can commence their journey.
That's amazing, right? Because lots of people oftentimes wonder about where to get eggs and sperm, and especially when you're looking for specific ethnicities.
Yes.
So to have the option to send it to any country in the world, that's really amazing.
Yes.
And in terms, go ahead.
Sorry, no, please continue.
In terms of the options you have, do you have a lot of diversity in terms of the ethnicities or countries of origins of the donors?
We try to aim to have as much as possible. There are, of course, some ethnicities that can be a little bit harder to get in. But we try to get as many different ethnicities as possible. Sometimes it can be a bit harder because they sell out faster, especially people with Asian and African background. They're very sought after because they don't have that many, so they do tend to sell out a bit faster. But we try to have a big variety, and that also comes down to the different backgrounds. Our donors come from so many diverse backgrounds, and their way of entrance to becoming donors is also very diverse, and it's very interesting to see how they go about it to become donors.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, it is great that you always try as much as possible to ensure that you're getting a wide variety of ethnicities. But of course, like you said, it's most of them are highly sought after. So as soon as you have, um, new people on, then people rush to get them.
Yes, they do. And I mean, depending on also on what kind of donors they want to become, whether non-ID release or ID release, that can also make it or break it for the donors, whether they want to become donors or not. So yeah, and that also comes down to when when a client wants to have treatment in a certain country where you can only use a certain donor profile, then that can also be hard to get some ethnicities, because again, they only choose to be a certain profile.
Oh, I see. So for example, like the UK has the ID release at 18, and
Yes.
as far as I'm aware, here in Nigeria, we don't necessarily have any requirement to have details released. So that could impact what the donor, who, if the donor wants to donate or not, right? Because some people don't want to be, they want to remain anonymous.
Exactly, and we have to respect that. I mean, we when the candidates come in and they're accepted as donors, they have um, to look into what kind of donor they would like to become, and we our coordinators, they sit down with them and explain what it contains to be both anonymous donors and ID release donors. And from there
Right.
they take the decision on whether they want to be ID release donors, which is non-anonymous donors, or anonymous donors, which is non-ID release donors.
Right. So important. Okay, so thank you for highlighting that. I think it's important for listeners also to be aware that they need to check their countries and ensure that they're aware of what the requirements are. So
So
when they're choosing donors.
most definitely, but when a client logs into our webpage, they have to type in which country they're receiving their treatment. And as soon as
Ah,
they've typed in that, for example, if you're in the UK and you're receiving treatment in the UK, you will only be shown donors that are UK eligible. So, and
oh,
this goes basically for each country, that as soon as you type in the country of treatment, you'll be shown the donors that are eligible for that given country.
oh, that's pretty cool. That really helps. So you don't actually, it's amazing, right? Because you don't have to worry yourself about trying to figure out what the requirements are for your country. The system already knows
Indeed,
it.
the system knows it, and it will help you not get into a lot of headaches and
Yeah,
stress about what kind of donor you're able to choose. And for us, it's very important to be as informative as possible and as helpful as possible when trying to pass on information to our clients. And we have to always have to take into consideration the legislation, which is why we've done it like this. So
yeah,
there are no
it's really,
misunderstandings.
yes, that's really helpful. So when a person goes online and just orders either egg or sperm, how long is the process, the shipping process normally or on average?
Well, as soon as you've placed the order to the clinic where you will receive the treatment, if it's within the EU, the European Union, it takes approximately 1 to 3 working days. And if
Right.
it's outside the EU, it takes approximately 5 to 7 working days. In addition, you also have to, when outside of the EU, have to take into consideration the time it takes going through customs and being
Mm.
declared and then being, but I mean, usually about 7 working days when it's outside the EU, and then it's shipped directly and handed over to the clinic.
That's great. So, Nia, for anyone listening, because sometimes people are concerned how much information is actually known about the donor, um, how much details do recipient parents or individuals get about the donor?
Well, when you log in and you have selected your country and you're shown the donors, It depends on the donor that you're looking for. For example, I'll take the UK again as my basis. For the UK, the donors have to be ID released, which means that
Right.
they're non-anonymous. So you can select between two donor profiles. We have the ones with the basic profile, which means that you only get the physical characteristics from the donor. You get his eye color, his height, his weight, his blood type, his whether he's a student or working. And that's basically very basic information. And then we have donors who have extended profile where you get baby pictures. There can be a voice recording of the donor. There can be a whole questionnaire about his hobbies and passions, a bit about his day-to-day life, if he's traveled. There can be a handwritten note from the donor to the donor child or the parents. You'll see the family tree, and then you get an idea of whether he has siblings or not. There's more information. For each donor profile, you get a full summary of records, which shows which hereditary diseases the donor has been tested for. And then regularly, the donors are tested for infectious diseases. And this will be updated on the summary of records. All this is available when you log into your profile, and then click on the donor search, and then you seek out the donors.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. That's well detailed, right? That's a whole lot more that you get from clinics.
Yeah, but it all comes down to what kind of donor that you're looking for, and how much information that you like. Some want as little information as possible, and others, they really want a lot of information. Some of our extended profile donors also have pictures as adults, and this is something that you pay extra for because it's a lot more detailed, and the process is a little bit heavier because, of course, they're more exposed when having a picture as an adult on their profile. But this goes both for egg and sperm donors.
That's pretty cool. And I mean, it's great. Like, you offer that. People have a choice, so you can decide what you want to know, how much information you want.
And we leave it complete. I mean, again, it's country regulated. So again, you can only go as far as the legislation allows you. But for instance, with the UK, with the ID donors, you basically, as you can choose how much information you would like.
That's really good to know. And in terms of, people also wonder about the donor, either egg or sperm, how many times, they might have donated, or how many potential families have selected that donor as well. So is there a maximum number of times that a donor can be selected?
Well, for egg donors, we rarely have more than 1 to 2 retrievals. But in terms of international guidelines, they can donate up to 6 times. For sperm donors, they can donate more because the regulation is different. However, of course, there are limits as to how many families or children can be born from a donation.
Yeah.
From a donor, a specific donor, and these are also country regulated, and that's why we have courts of reservations in place for countries. So some countries are regulated by family quotas, and some are regulated by quotas per child born from a donor.
Right.
And we have a very strict stock management system. So this also means that it's very unlikely that there will be too many children born, both from an egg donor globally and also from sperm donors.
And you mentioned the quota reservation. What is that? I remember I saw that as well on your website. Well, the family quota.
The family quota, or the pregnancy quota, or quota reservation, is it's just your security for and it's mandatory to
Oh,
purchase. It gets added on when you make your purchase. It gets added on, and it's your security that the donor does not meet his limit for registered pregnancies in your country of treatment. So while you're having treatment, you can rest assured that your donor has not reached his limit. And as long as you keep that pregnancy quota, then you're within that limit because you've bought that slot in that limit.
right.
And for family quotas, it's well, as the wording goes, it's per family, but there are also some that are per children, which means that if you're seeking to have more children, you need to purchase more quotas for your family. But again, this is country regulated, so it will be something that we inform the client about when they're in the midst of the purchase, if they contact us. And also we contact them to ensure that they should consider purchasing both more samples but also extra quota if mandatory in the country of residence and treatment.
Okay, that's really helpful because I know, lots of people while going to treatment, even if they're trying for their first child, might be considering options to try for a sibling and wanting to use the same donor
Yes.
For that as
And
well. So that's
yeah, and we see that sometimes that they and some also just purchase the quota, have the treatment, and then they cancel the quota, and then they want to repurchase it again, and then it's sold out. And we always recommend that as long as you haven't finished your treatment with that donor, do not cancel it until you're 100% sure that you do not wish to proceed with that donor, because it's heartbreaking sometimes to tell a client that she cannot purchase the same donor because he's met his limit.
exactly. And if people purchase from you, so either egg or sperm, and there is no fertilization for any reason, or, I mean, I haven't, in some cases you hear of this, not common, but it can happen. So I wonder, does Cryos offer any options for anyone like that?
Well, when it comes to eggs, we do have something called a blastocyst guarantee if you have a treatment in one of our reference clinics. That means that if you purchase a minimum of six eggs, we guarantee a minimum of one viable blastocyst for a clinical pregnancy. And if this is not obtained, then we will replace the 6 eggs for the next treatment. And in relation to this, there are also a number of sperm parameters that needs to be adhered to. But this is something, we have a specific customer care egg team that can provide a lot more information about this. They are very specialized. As for sperm, well, it depends. I mean, if there's been something wrong with the sample, if there was some incident with the sample, then the client would have to file a complaint, and our laboratory would look into it. And if there indeed was something wrong with the sample, well, then we would make a new full replacement order for that for the next cycle. But if there's no fertilization from the sperm and everything was in order and there's nothing wrong with the sperm sample, then the client would have to purchase a new sample.
Okay. That's good to know, because you never know, some things like that can happen. So it's good and it's great that you also have the options to have, customers explain what happened and to see what's available for them. So thank you for highlighting that.
Oh, definitely. And for us, it's very, again, we try to be as transparent as possible and also as informative as possible, as to also letting know that it's not a given that you get pregnant in your first cycle. Per average, it takes a couple of cycles. So people should not be discouraged by this. If you get pregnant in the first cycle, then you're very lucky. We see that it on average, it does take 3 to 4 cycles to obtain a pregnancy.
Exactly. It's so important that people know that. But it's great that, you know, even in spite of that, that you actually have that option of guaranteeing a blastocyst or pregnancy. That's great, because oftentimes you wouldn't get that.
That's true.
So,
but
yeah.
again, this is something that it has to be in one of our
Of
reference
course.
clinics for eggs. And then again, contact our customer care egg team, because they are really good at explaining everything about the process from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. And it's good that you have different departments as well, so people can actually specialize and have a better understanding of different aspects.
Exactly. And if there's anything I can't, not even a given that though that I've been in the company for many years, it's not everything I'm 100% aware of, especially with eggs. It's not my field, but I try to get as informed as possible to answer. And what I cannot answer, I can at least pass on to one of my specialized team members who can help out.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, for anyone wondering how much rigorous testing or checks are done on donors before you actually accept them on your system?
Well, I can tell you that the process for the donor candidates is very rigorous and strict. You can't just come in from the street, of course, and just walk in and become a donor. The process is very rigorous. It's the same both for egg and sperm donors. They have to fill out a form. If from that form we find them interesting enough, and then they're invited into to an interview, and then it takes off from there. Their screenings done, both physical and mental screenings.
Okay.
We look into through different interviews to see if any of them have risk behaviors. We interview them about their families, if there are any hereditary diseases. They have psychological counseling. We do the genetic testing for the hereditary diseases, and then they also have the infectious disease test, and for the egg donors, they also have a gynecology exam and an ultrasound to see how everything is. So yeah, it is very it's a process, and it takes time. And if accepted, then that's when they choose whether they want to be ID release or non-ID release donors, and the type of profile. If they're under 25, they have to go through more interviews if they want to be ID release donors, in order for them to understand everything that contains in that process, because it is quite young, and we want to make sure that they do make an informed consent when accepting to becoming donors.
Yeah, I love it. So detailed. And it is true, right? It's true that people would make informed decisions. So I love the fact that you take the time to really spend time explaining and also going through testing for both the eggs and sperm donors.
Yes, and I mean, for us, it is important that they also understand everything that entails in becoming a donor, especially if you choose to be an ID release donor, as you might be contacted after 18 years by a donor conceived child. So they need to understand everything in relation to that.
Yeah, definitely. And in speaking about that, you know, you actually mentioned donor conceived child. You know, there's always a lot of depending on your culture, ethnicity, or thought process. So for whatever reason, people have the conversations about telling or not telling do not conceived children about the fact that they are. In your opinion, what would you say to anyone listening and wondering if to tell their child or not?
Well, I would actually put it this way. If you choose to tell your child that they're donor conceived, we recommend that you start off at a very early age and being as honest as possible, always taking into consideration your child's age. We have a lot about how to go about it on our webpage. We have blogs, we have links with books. We have our Family Dreams group on Facebook where you can confer with other parents with donor conceived children about how they went about it. There's a lot of information. We try to leave it up to the themselves whether or not they want to tell them, because it's not our stance is that either you do or don't. That's okay for you. It's your choice. But if you choose to tell them, be as honest as possible.
Well said, thank you. And I love the fact that you've highlighted that your website also has a lot of support on how to do that, because I think oftentimes one of the common comments or worries is, how do I tell? What do I say? When do I start? So having all that support and information on your website is really helpful as well for prospective parents. Yes,
and again, it's about visibility. And on our webpage, we have some YouTube videos also with donor conceived children telling a bit about their experiences as donor conceived children and how they were told,
which
wonderful. I really recommend watching as well. But there's a lot of information available, and children's books too, that could be of great help when you go about it.
Thank you for sharing that. And just to ask as well, in terms of, for anyone listening, wondering how will they know how many eggs to order or how much straws of sperm to order, do you give them guidance as an agency to advise on how to make a decision on that?
We always tell them to consult also with their clinic when starting the fertility journey. But you should also think long term. Again, it's not a given that you get pregnant in the first cycle. And so on average, you should probably order a little bit more if it both sperm and eggs, but a little bit more. You can keep the samples stored at Cryos, and any unused samples we have a buyback guarantee of 75% of the straw price, and this goes for eggs too. For eggs, we say a minimum of six eggs. Again, you can ship as you go, so you can ship the samples as per cycle, so you don't lose any unused samples stored at the clinic.
Right.
But also, if you consider having siblings, it's better to just have a bit more, or you can keep buying from that donor to ensure that he doesn't sell out, or she doesn't stop being a donor, because there's also that risk that at some point they decide to stop and continue with their lives, and then they sell out, and then there are no more samples. So all this has to be taken into consideration as well. So it's better to purchase a little bit more.
Yeah.
And again, you can always add on, because we will merge if you buy more samples to keep stored at Cryos in a reservation depot. But then those add-ons could be merged into the original reservation.
Oh wow! Thanks for highlighting that, because I think that's something that one might not think about, and the fact that you actually, people can ship as they need it, because obviously if they've shipped it all out of Cryos, it cannot be returned.
No, if you choose to have it all shipped to the clinic at once, then we regretfully cannot take it back.
Of course, yeah. So then they have that option of keeping it with you and then just shipping it out in bits or as they need it.
Exactly, and I actually really recommend this, because again, if you've gotten to a point where you've had the children that you desired, and everything is good, and this is the time to stop for now, then we have that buyback guarantee of 75% buyback of the unused straws. It's just, and again, also, if just as a security, if you're still trying for your first child and want to ensure also having for a second or a third child in the future.
Exactly. Thank you for highlighting that. So for anyone just wondering, I know that you spoke about the fact that you offer eggs and sperm donation. Do you have embryos as well?
No, unfortunately, we do not offer embryo creation in the EU.
Okay.
So that's not possible.
All right. And for anyone listening, which obviously you've actually really educated us today and shared so much information, but for anyone listening and looking to contact you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, we're actually very available all over. We can be contacted by phone, by mail. We have a chat function on our webpage. We have our social media, both Facebook and Instagram. So you can contact us more or less all over. And there's always someone to get a hold of.
Okay, so just go on Cryos International or on your social media pages.
Exactly.
Okay. And is that the same as well for anyone interested in getting started? Will that be the first step for them to proceed to reach out to you?
They can either reach out to us. They can also reach out to their GP or gynecologist to get a referral to fertility clinic. It can be our Family Dreams to get our Family Dreams group on Facebook to get some pointers from other women that are starting their journey or are in the midst of their journey, because it helps when you're not alone and you're with some other women who are in it or have been in it, who can give you advice. So yes, and our team, we're grateful to be able to help anyone who calls us or writes us. And we always recommend them also to go on our Family Dreams group, because there's so much valuable information there from someone from the women who are a part of that group.
Yes, and it's so important, like you said, support is so invaluable. Just to know that there are others like you and other people that might have walked that journey before you and can assist
Exactly. Support is crucial, and even if you do have the support of your family, they will not understand in full terms the process and the everything that's going through your mind, and the stress and the information load that you need to go through. But these women who are in it, either getting started, in the midst of it, or having finished it, they can give you so much sparring on that, which is, for me, is gold. It doesn't get much better than the information that you get from other women who are in the same situation or have been in the same situation as yourself.
Definitely. Really, really helps. Just know that you're not alone. There's such
Exactly.
like you said. Yeah.
Exactly. Knowing that you're not alone, and that there are a lot more women that you would possibly think of that are in the same situation. And I think some women don't know that these groups exist, and when they find out, they're like, they feel such a relief that they
like, where have you been?
Exactly, and that they can talk freely about, and there's no taboos, there are no silly questions, that you can ask anything and everything without being frowned upon and looked strange at. It's such a valuable thing, and so important to have that support from others in the same situation.
It is. And that's really incredible that you have that as well as an additional resource.
Yes, it is. And I say that as it's nothing, but it is.
It is,
me personally,
it's huge.
It's huge because if we go back to 10, 20 years back, there wasn't, there was so much more taboo back then. And now there seems to be a lot more acceptance, and it's becoming more common, both with the female fertility struggle, but also male infertility. Yeah. It seems to be more accepted that that you need to go through some sort of fertility initial process, whether it's the whole shebang or if it's just some parts of and bits of the process.
Yeah. Well said, really. And I just cannot imagine how it was for people way back then that didn't have that support. So this is just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot even begin to imagine the stress that they must have gone through, because again, a lot of closed doors, a lot of taboo, a lot of secrecy, and now it's it still exists in some countries.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
It does, and we do hear that, but it thankfully it is starting to open up a lot more, and we see that people talk about it with a whole different openness and being something that they appreciate more, and it should be like that. It should be a taboo. It is a real struggle, and it is a real issue for so many people today, that the more we talk about it and the more we normalize it, the better, because we'll find that a lot more people go through it in silence, and they shouldn't.
They really shouldn't, yeah. Because it's no one's fault, really. Thank you so much for highlighting that. That's really important for people to also hear. So thank you. And as a wrap-up, Beatrice, is there any other information that you'd like to share with anyone listening and considering donor conception? Anything about Cryos International or any other information you'd like to share?
Well, I would say don't be afraid. Contact us if you're just starting up. Don't be afraid of asking questions. As I mentioned before, there are no silly questions. There are no stupid questions. If interested, go to our Family Dreams group on Facebook. There's so much information there. Go to our webpage, cryosinternational.com. A lot of valuable information there too, both from on our blogs, but also very detailed information about how you commence the process. You can send us a chat message where you can be anonymous and ask questions if you do not feel comfortable picking up the phone, or sending us an email for that matter. We are more than glad to help anyone contacting us, and they shouldn't be afraid of anything. We know it's a delicate process to go about, but we are here to help anyone and everyone who wants to commence the journey.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. It's been really amazing having you on here today. Such an informative session with you. You've shared so much. And of course, like you highlighted, there's still so much support and resource available on your website and on your social media pages. So it's just amazing, the setup that your agency has to support people trying to conceive. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and for sharing with us all about Cryos International. Yes, thank you. And of course, we look forward to having you again in the near future. Thank you so much.
Definitely. My pleasure. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Fertility Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Fertility Conversations. If there are any topics you would like to have discussed, please send an email to fertilityconversations@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourself and do stay hopeful.